Sanderson. Irene means peace, and Sanderson like the wallpaper. Lots of wallpaper. I've left my card on the table there, so if you're interested, just take my card. Maybe if you email me, I'll put your name on a mailing list for workshops. How about that, if you're interested after today? We'll see, eh? Right, Chinese brush painting. Yeah, right, so I've got plenty of Chinese brushes here. The artist's studio. We have the treasures. I've got them all in this box. Your inks, your brushes, your paper, they're all called treasures because they all house calligraphy and the painting, the aspects of the culture of China and Japan, which took them from China, and a bit of Korea. You'll find this brush painting extends over Asia, really, even Mongolia. So here are the treasures. I've got them all in this box. They're usually presented in a beautiful box, silk, red lined. And so I've got all the treasures here that you will need for brush painting. First of all, there's the ink. There's the ink. Now that's a little stick made of soot that's been mixed with animal glue. Here's the size, the glue. It's made from hoof and horn. So if you're vegan, I'm not sure what you'd do. You might want to think about that. Certainly don't lick your brushes because this is what it's got in it. And you don't want to be getting any nasty diseases from that. Now that's an ink stick. That's soot gathered off a lampshade that's burning. Wick is maybe soaked in oil from pine. It'll give you a blue ink, or rapeseed oil. It'll give you a brown ink. Here's a posher ink stick that I got earlier. And then you have to use this ink stone to grind your ink. So you do that. Now, I'm not sure if you can see that on the overhead projector. Can you see that?
Yes.
That's a roundy. And that's a bit of a squarey, isn't it? Well, they're both good. There's a little ink well there. That's a composite, it's a tile. But you can buy stone ones, which are far more expensive, and the best ink stones are taken from the beds of rivers. So they've been worn and smoothed by the action of water over the years. Perhaps if you go to China and see the rivers, you'll see a lot of these stones in the river beds are painted to stop people stealing them. Mm-hmm. Now, it should feel like a baby's fontanelle, this well. If you stroke that area, you should just have a little dip in it and have a bit of response feeling. And there's a bit of water in the bottom of the tile, and then you grind your ink like that. Nice and leisurely, not furiously and not too light, just nice and leisurely. And if you feel a bit of grit coming off, just wipe it on some paper like that. There you go. So that's how to make your ink. Calms you down. Sometimes the inks have perfume in them, so you sort of carried away. There you go. Now, tap the ink and leave it like that. Please don't leave it like that, or it'll stick to the stone eventually, and you can't get it off without damaging the stone. Just leave it like that. This is a cheap one. This is a much more expensive one. It's come in its own pretty box. And it's 1,000. Oh no, this is a Yellow Mountain. I've got this in the Yellow Mountains in China. Yeah, so that can go back in there. Right, the next thing you have, well, you've seen the little ink well and the little ink stone, little spoon. I'm using here is a larger version. I use white or transparent wells so I can see what's on my brush. It's all information that goes in when you're working. That's to put my little brushes on. I've got a white brush, I've got a brown brush. Right? 2 brushes. Right, okay. That's what you need. You need a white brush for rouge, spreading colour. That's the hair of sheep or goats. It carries a lot of water, but it's a bit dead when it's full of water. So you need a brown bristle. Brown bristles have lots of barbs on them, and they meet together, they come together to create line. So they've got much more line about them. These are the two kinds of brushes. And you'll find here, I've got a complete set. Again, beautifully contained in a silk container. We've got white, we've got the brown, and we've got the mix. So you've got the best of both worlds in there. You've got carrying the liquid and the energy of the line in there. It can be made of anything as long as it's never been cut. Baby hair, even. That would make a nice brush. Never been cut. Naturally tapering. Oh yes, the hairs. Maybe mink, stoat for the brown. If you're in China, be careful. I don't know what species of animal they might be using. There are strict laws about importing rare hair, isn't it, from rare endangered species, but in China I'm not sure. And this is a head that's fallen out of a brush because it was left in the water and the bamboo split. And if you pass it round, you can feel the amount of material that's at the head of the brush. That's a reservoir for the ink. Well, here are some brushes that I take out sketching. I'll use a nice big black one there. It's already got ink on it. That'll give me plenty of line and it will go right down to the fine tip. Just if that's not fine enough, I can use that one. That's the smallest one I've got. Good bit of nice, that'll spread a nice bit of colour. This will give me a nice swelling for the petals. That's what I used for that painting there. Right, so that's the smallest one I've got. That's a nice one, a nice rough one for getting grass. Here it is. I wanted to show you this one because it's just such a nice object. Oh, and there's this one. Now it's got several points there. You could do several lines at once with that one. Pass those round. That's just such a lovely brush. That's a hake, or hake as we call them. And then last of all, the seal for putting the finishing touch to your painting. Now we don't take this into school because it's mercury oxide. So be careful when you handle your seal red. I brought my seals along so I can do a ting to the end of a painting. So there we are. Oh, there. Nice finishing touch. Oh, should meet over here with my signature. There we go. Got two seals. If you're an artist, the first one is your master's name, and then the second half is your name tagged onto his. So,
sorry, the first is
your master's name.
Oh, right.
My master was Aizu, so I took I. And the second one is Rini, so it's Irene really. I was fortunate it meant that.
Oh, yeah.
That's white line out of red, isn't it? And that's red line. So they're yin and yang. Well, let's get down to some painting. Paper. That's the last of the treasures, and not the least. Here we go. Moon Palace paper. Right, that's what that says. That's a Japanese paper, made in Japan. Right, so I've got some ink here. Just doing that. So as a starting exercise, you could try doing that, back. That's what you're supposed to do every morning. You see how I'm not moving my wrist? I'm just swaying, my whole body's taking that brush across, and then down, up, down. That's the starting exercise. Now, it would take me quite a while to grind up some ink, so I've got some instant ink here. First class though, it says, first class ink. There we go. This is the sort of ink that when you let it out, it goes round the world. It goes, oh, I'm off, I'm away. It's quite concentrated. One of those, squeeze of that. Whoop. And it's 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. Let's put a couple in. Right. Let's get to the black one. I've used that already for ink, so there we go. Can you see all right? Are you obstructed by all this?
You use rice paper.
It's called rice paper, and some of the papers have rice in them, but really it's like, most of the time, like this paper, is linen, just like art paper. Yeah. That's the opening exercise, just learning how to get the brush across the paper. See, I'm moving my whole body there. Supposed to go and do that for quite a while. You can probably see how the first line I put is interfering with the ink that I've just painted over it. And that's what happens. Whatever you put down first on the paper rises up. So you can't paint over anything. You can't rub it out. It's just gone into the glue of that first stroke is interfering with anything I put over it.
Nice effect.
It'll always be there. There it goes. Strange effects. Next thing you have to learn is how to use the brush, different strokes, how to get different shapes out of the brush. So we learn the 8 laws. This is the first one, 1. This is the second, 2. This is the third, 3. This is the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7, and 8. This is called the tearing the body apart, this one. I'm not quite sure why. I prefer to call it the flying goose. So those are the 8 laws, the A.G. Happer. This character means eternal, but it's got the 8 strokes. Once you can master these 8 different strokes with your brush, then you can paint anything and you can write anything. 8 eternal laws, you could call it. Of course, that means eternal. So that's something to practice. The 10, the horizontal, press down, vertical, hook. And I think this one is, I think it's a graze. And this is to take off. This is to peck. And this is to dismember. I'm not sure why that's dismember. I think flying goose, I think is more appropriate.